welcome back to the Women's Empowered Health Solutions blog. This video is an accompaniment to Balasana, the third blog in our yoga series. I'm Rose Velasco and welcome to my newly designed yoga space. I'm so excited to be sharing a beautiful background instead of having a bunch of piles of junk and disorganization and chaos. So this is really a much more beautiful space to practice in now. So we left off last week in tabletop position. And this week we're working with Balasana, which is child's pose. So I brought a couple of blankets with me today because I wanted to show you, I really like these Mexican style blankets. The way they fold up are nice and uniform and help to support the body in an even manner from side to side, so the body's not lopsided one side or the other. I also have a bolster for some support in this pose today with the modifications that I'll be taking you through. And if you don't have a bolster, because a lot of people don't have bolsters, I understand. I have a couch cushion. Everybody's got a couch cushion, right? So that can be used as support in this pose. And then I've got a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, an Amazon box shaped the same way, or another smaller little decorative pillow will work as well. So let's get started. Come to tabletop position like we were last week, with the wrist underneath the outer fleshy portion of the shoulders. Fingers are nice and wide. We're pressing down through the palms. And the tops of the feet are pressing into the mat with the knees stacked underneath the hips. From tabletop position, we're just going to simply sink the hips back towards the heels and rest the forehead on the mat. And now if this isn't available for you today to rest the forehead on the mat, you can take a block or a nice little decorative pillow or an Amazon box underneath the forehead. Relax into the elbows and perhaps the forearms rest on the mat. And start to breathe in to the lower back, the hips, the knees and the ankles. And come to the breath as the attention and the focus starts to move inward. Now I won't stay here too long because I'd like to give some modifications to those who may be feeling pain in the hips, pain in the knees, or even the ankles. So what we do for a modification, let's start with the ankles first. I'd like to take an additional blanket. Unfold it slightly, and then start to roll one end up. I place that little bit of roll right underneath the ankles. See that? This way, if the ankles are really tight and they don't like to flatten out all the way, it gives a little bit of height underneath that bend in the ankles. And now we'll work with the knees. If you are having pain in the knees or maybe even the hips and the sits bones or the buttocks aren't coming back all the way to the heels, you can always place a rolled up blanket on top of the calves and rest back. We have our block nearby. And then this is where the bolster or the couch cushion or both come in. Then we start to lengthen in through the spine and rest forward. Maybe you use a block. Maybe you rest the head on one cheek or the other. As you reach the arms forward, take a deep breath and relax. If this is a little uncomfortable still for the hips, I'm going to invite you to take the big toes together the knees mat width apart, and then sink the hips back. Gives a little more opening for the belly, a little more opening into the hips. If you are able to ditch the blanket and ditch the bolster, then I'm going to invite you with the knees mat width apart and big toes together to reach forward. Again, you can either rest the head, forehead on the mat. Maybe you bring the forehead to a block. If the forehead is to the mat and this is a little difficult for the shoulders, you can always bring the hands back behind you. So here are some modifications for Balasana, child's pose. You can use this as a restorative pose to calm the nervous system. You can use this as a pose to open up a tight lower back, to increase circulation in the body, and even to come to the awareness of your breath. And as you breathe in, imagine the entire rib cage expanding. As you inhale, feel the side ribs, the back ribs, and the belly expand. As you exhale, take it long and slow, maybe even exhaling through pursed lips if you're having a little bit of anxiety. And stay here as long as you would like. This is a very good pose for restorative, which we hold for 10 minutes. But if you're using this as a transition pose, let's get to that. So I'm moving all of the props out of the way, because if we're using this as a transition pose, we're simply going to be coming from tabletop position, sinking the hips back to the heels, staying here for one breath, and then allowing an inhale to lift the hips up, curl the toes under, and as you exhale, take the hips back and up into downward facing dog. So this is where I'm going to leave you off this week in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, and we'll pick this up next week. Thanks again for watching. I hope you've been enjoying this series, this yoga pose series, as we are building up to the sun salutations at the very end. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Namaste. And Jai Bhagwan. Victory to your spirit.